All right, I hope everyone's doing good. We're at the start, stage 5. So we left off, had radiation. It was tough, but now it gets really hard, theoretically, with chemo. When people hear chemo, they don't really know really what that means. I think I could be wrong. I'm just going from my own experience before learning all this stuff about cancer firsthand and treatments. But like I said in my last stage, chemo is kind of like a whole body approach. It just obliterates many cells, good and bad, in order to get the bad. So it doesn't distinguish, oh, this is a bad cell, let's kill this cell. No, it just kills them all, because that's the only way it can happen. So that's why people get really thin, lose hair, get sick, all that stuff. But within chemo, there's different types of chemos, different drugs, different strengths. So there's a lot that goes into it. My doctor, Dr. Weeks, did some research, and because sarcomas are, like I said, rare, there's not like this perfect treatment for sarcoma. Oh, sarcomas use this chemo drug or use that chemo drug. So what they do is they kind of look at the research and look at soft tissue sarcomas and what has been used prior and what has been the most successful. So they give you a pack. They're like, these are the drugs we're using. These have been used for breast cancer, this, that, and the other, and soft tissue sarcomas. So basically, you'll go for an infusion, and it lasts several hours. You know, it could be an entire day for the most part by the time you get in, you get out. And then you will take 2 weeks off, I believe, and then you'll go back for another week. And you do this process for a good 5 infusions over, 3 months, I think it was, 2 or 3 months, which kind of sucks because it's like, I'm impatient. I just want to get bombed and go on with life. But this is a very long process for reasons, obviously. Because this stuff can kill you if the cancer doesn't. So I started it. I'm not going to go into too much detail. We all know what chemo is. So after a few weeks, my hair was still intact, and I was thinking, maybe I can get through this without losing my hair. And one day I woke up and I just saw all this loose hair on my pillow, and then it was like, there it goes. So this is why people shave their hair. And I reluctantly did that. One of the reasons I didn't want to do that is because, like I said earlier, I was working, and not just in work, but in everyday life, I just didn't want to be seen differently. And this is my own deal. Other people are different. This is just my own shit I'm talking about here. Some people cope differently. For me, I want to internalize it, and I don't want anyone else to know. And it's hard to hide something like this when you're bald all of a sudden. One day you had a full head of hair, next day you're bald. So I didn't want people to say, oh, he's going through cancer or chemo or poor him. I just didn't want to be treated differently. I didn't put it on my social media. I didn't make this huge announcement at work. I just wanted to go about my life. So it's kind of hard to do, but that's neither here nor there. Went through it. I will say this, and I don't know if I was dreaming this up, but I swear this happened. I have 2 dogs. I let them out at night. And being a man and being a Neanderthal, sometimes I go out and into the wild of my backyard, and I'll pee with the dogs. And so I got my spot, right outside the patio door. I go out, I hook a right, patch of grass, pee there. So I do this time to time, and I noticed a round dead spot in the grass, and I was like, holy shit. My pee was toxic from the chemo, and it was killing the fucking grass. Now that makes sense, because they do say there are a lot of things going through chemo that you have to be careful about with your loved ones that are also living in your house. Like, you have to have your separate toilet. This is why. So yeah, I thought that was crazy. Yeah, I made it through chemo. My wife came to my chemo treatments and sat with me while we watched, what were we watching at the time? A lot of Bosch, which is a show, detective show, on Netflix, I believe it was. So my daughter was born while I was going through chemo. Everything went well with that. A few months pass, and time for the big reveal, I guess you'd say. You get tested again. Well, you get scanned again, and let's see how the chemo did. And unfortunately, it didn't do so well. I now had cancer in my hip bone and my lungs. Yep. So, just when you thought things couldn't get any worse, it gets worse. And it gets really worse. I remember in those early days I told you about, when I was doing research and on Google and on WebMD, and I remember seeing stats, and I remember seeing lungs attached to those stats, and I remember seeing some things that really would come to roost at this point. Scary shit. Lung cancer ain't nothing to fuck with. Neither is any cancer, but lung cancer is definitely not. And at that point, I thought, this can't be happening. There's points in a bike race where the race is really getting hard and people are starting to get dropped, and the pack is getting smaller and smaller, and you're still in the thick of things, and you're really stretched to the limit, and then that little gap opens between you and the leaders, and you are absolutely giving it all you have to stay up with it, because you know if that gap opens anymore, you're not going to close it, and your chances of winning or whatever, your chances of winning or getting on the podium are slipping away. And that's the way it felt at this moment. It felt like my life was slipping away. On top of that, I just had a daughter. I've got 3 other kids that rely on me. We're a 1-income family, and there's a lot to think about, obviously. On top of that, I remember watching this show Breaking Bad previous to cancer and thinking, oh my God, that would suck to be Walter White. How horrible. Get lung cancer, give birth to your first daughter, and through it all, it's hard to find humor, but I kind of embraced the comparison, and at work, they started calling me Heisenberg, and I like that. I would go, I'm the one who knocks. And if you're a Breaking Bad fan, you'll know what that reference is. So yeah, I'm living Walter White's life all of a sudden, which was a nightmare to watch. And I'm thinking, just like Walter White, if anything happens to me, I need to leave my family with something. So meth, hell, rob a bank, you know, something. But that's fantasy. What you got to do is what's next? You know, what can we do next that might get me through this? So we'll end the stage here. I'm going to say we got one more really hard stage, then things are going to get a little bit better. So hang with me. Check your lumps. Spoiler alert. This is me. I'm still here. I didn't die. So check back. We're going to get through a hard mountain stage, and then we're going to descend down to the finish line. Please like and subscribe, and check out my channel. Thanks.